Can they hear us now?
I show you guys on the audio meter, so I'm hoping so.
Tell you in a second.
Yep, it went through.
Sweet, it's working.
Yep, it definitely did.
Excellent.
All right. Hello again.
Hello, everybody.
We are rocking. Okay. So we have a fun little laundry list of things to go over. Let's go ahead and start with the player classes. Go ahead and talk a bit about the Confessor. Shelby, you were the first alpha tester in the guild, so let's go ahead and get your input on the Confessor.
Well, my first experience with the Confessor was actually right in the middle of the horrible latency right at the start of the event. So it kind of turned me off on that, but after watching it go on over the few events that we've had, I've seen that since the latency's gotten a little bit better, it's starting to shine. It's doing a lot more damage. People are landing all their spells. People look to be having fun. I'm getting wrecked by Confessors, and I don't like that, by the way. But other than that, it looks like it's shaping up to be a solid damage class. They've got a few more skins they need to do. I know that they were talking about currently it dives under the ground when they use their was it their Hellfire? Not their Hellfire, their C ability. And they're talking about when they get the stealth implemented, they might just make it go invisible. So we're hoping to see more about that.
Absolutely. My feelings on the Confessor is that outside of the lag, I really like the range style for the spell casting. I feel like the spells, when you land them, do a lot of damage. So that's pretty good, especially when you're up against a knight who can tank physical really well.
What I really liked from just watching you guys was it seemed like there was actually a skill curve with the Confessor. You know, with actually having to target your shot and think about where the guy's going to be when your shot gets there. I like that there's actually a skill curve.
Absolutely.
I played a lot of the played the Confessor a lot so far in the alpha test, and I really enjoy it a lot. It's a really great ranged class. The damage ability is fantastic when you actually can land your abilities, but I feel like there does need to be a little bit of work as far as whenever you're clicking to use your left click and your fireball, a lot of times there's like a huge delay in when you actually fire it in the direction that you're facing. I noticed that, I mean, obviously if you're spam clicking it, it's not going to be very good, but if you click in a certain direction, if you spin before you actually fire, it still fires in that direction that you are not facing any longer. I'm sure that'll come as time goes on, but it's just something that I noticed.
Unnamed actually had a question for us all about the Confessor.
Sure.
And his question was, thoughts on Confessor's mobility and ability to kite enemies being a medium range mage? Personally, I hate chasing down Confessors on a knight. It drives me insane. They can just get away from me all day. I think I chased one for a good 2 or 3 minutes the other day on my stream. And my kid's in the background having a blast.
Then again, the thought behind that, for me, the knight's job isn't to run down someone, right? He's more of a guardian to help in the middle of a battle right there, not necessarily hunt someone down. So he's really good at doing what he's doing, and maybe shouldn't be the guy to go run down a Confessor.
Well, yeah, we're also limited on the class choice right now, too. Now, if I was on like a ranged character, of course, I would chase them down all day, plunking them. But being what we have right now, and being as I have the only ability that lets me pull someone back to the group, it's kind of the better choice, plus the dash and everything.
Well, I think that's a good thing to lead into this, is that, you know, we're really only testing the combat mechanics. There's no balancing going on right now, and even with as little balancing as there is, I feel like the 3 classes that they're allowing us to play in alpha they're pretty well balanced from the jump. They all have their benefits, they all have their perks, so I really enjoy all of them. I'm not too hot on the Legionnaire though.
Yeah, me neither.
I actually really enjoyed the Legionnaire that last night whenever I played it.
Okay, so going into the Legionnaire, so if you were grouped with two other people and say you were a knight, a confessor, and a Legionnaire, would you rather have another confessor in that spot instead of a Legionnaire?
In my opinion, no. I love the Legionnaire's run speed buff. That thing is awesome. I mean, it gets you to loot quicker, it lets you run down people. Also, I mean, just general mobility. You need mobility in this type of game. Also, they have that heal, and they can do a nice little knockback with that. Was it that rear kick?
Oh yeah, that thing's awesome.
Yeah.
I can never
Rear
land
kick's
it.
pretty
It's
fun.
awesome.
I mean, what do you think, Val? You played the Legionnaire the most out of all of us.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as a support style class, I mean, obviously, there's not a significant amount of skills available at the moment, but what they give us are, I feel, very good for the current test. The heal is awesome, definitely helps out in a lot of combat situations. The run speed, as you said, Shelby, is key in a game like this where you need mobility. So that'll definitely be very useful. And as far as I know a lot of people had talked about how the, I guess, combat mechanics of the Legionnaire are kind of clunky and not so fluid as maybe the Knight or the Confessor so far. I mean, yeah, I can see that to a certain degree, but I mean, obviously, unless you're me and running off from Prax as a Knight, you're not supposed to be running into a fight, guns blazing, and you kind of like hang out and help out the other teammates. So when it comes to that and the combat, I guess if you're trying to fight somebody one-on-one, maybe a little clunky, but overall, it's still a really fun class to play. And it certainly has its uses.
Oh, it definitely does. I would say right now my biggest complaint about it is the model actually gets in the way of Knight's abilities and probably Confessor as well. That said, I think my instinct to the clunkiness of the Legionnaire is I feel like it's okay for it to be a little clunky, but I feel like it should be a bit more tanky. So that's kind of where I land on it. Obviously, I have been favoring the Knight entirely, which is probably bad. I really need to branch out and play more Confessor and more Legionnaire just to get a feel for the characters.
We got other things we got there we wanted to talk about?
Anybody got any more input on the Legionnaire? Any of the viewers want to ask anything about the Legionnaire? Or if they have any inputs on themselves, we're happy to hear them.
Oh heck yeah!
Just on that topic with just the fact that the Legionnaire is the first support character that they've come out with, I really like the fact that they're not having the big healer hose down type character coming out. Like they're not going to have that guy that just sits there and heals the whole fight.
Yeah, no fire hose healers.
Which will be pretty awesome. Kind of rely more on skill and maneuvering and things like that rather than actually just sitting there and tank and spanking.
Well, and that's what's been kind of fun about this whole process is, in testing they've just given us a limited skill set to work with, but right now with the latency, we can't really judge a person's abilities because it's pretty hard to land stuff until when your ping's 200 to 300 on the server and sometimes upwards of 800. You're really just getting a feel for how the game looks and how the camera moves at this point. But as of the last test, we saw that the latency it improved quite a bit. So
Unnamed 44 is asking how we all feel about the Screaming Goat Legionnaire voice. Me personally, I like me some Screaming Goats. Prax knows this, so I've got a partial to it.
It's hilarious.
I can take it or leave it. It doesn't sound like a sound that should come from the Legionnaire.
Yeah, that is true. Well, if nobody has anything else on the Legionnaire, I guess our next one would be the Knight. So I'm not going to start this time,
Oh, the
But
knight.
you played him the most.
and I'll go last.
Well then, I personally really enjoy the knight. I actually think that if there's any character balancing that needs to happen for the testing, the other characters should be balanced up to the knight because I feel like the knight is the most playable class right now. The chain pull on it is super fun. It's a little weird right now because you can pull things right past you. Uh, the the combos and abilities are they feel natural playing a knight. I just I enjoy the damage, the knockdowns. I think they're a well made character, and I think that if there's going to be any balancing, it should be the other characters balanced up to that level.
That is true, James. Unlike the Legionnaire, I mean, it's not as balanced, and it does drive like a boat.
I personally have not played the Knight too much. I've played it once, and I feel that their combat animations and just in general is way more fluid than the other two. But overall, it looks like it's shaping up to be a really fun class to play. Seems to be the most, aside from the Confessor, obviously, that everybody's been playing. So
Yep, that's why James Goblin called it Nightfall.
It
I
is
think
true.
I think Oberon has been doing a little bit more Legionnaire than Knight lately. I'm not sure.
Actually, every time I've been in a group with Oberon, he's been Legionnaire. Extremely good at it.
Power goat.
rocking the horse.
So Val, you didn't get a chance to play Knight yet, have you?
I played it once, and it was a very brief, very brief round. So
All right. So my opinion on Knight is I enjoy it a lot. Out of the three that were available right now, it's calling me the most. Like I can play it pretty well. I'm not saying I'm the best. Not saying the worst. I can play it pretty well. The call out with the skills, the chain pull, everything. I mean, if you don't have your shield up, you're gonna die. The shield does AoE damage. There's a lot of basic CC that comes with that build or that Knight. I mean, you can charge and then you can swing your sword and knock someone down, stun them. You can lead into more stuns and just keep one person pretty much immobilized. If they start to get away, you got the chain pull to pull them back. And yeah, it does get a little wonky on the chain pull. Like there was a time I had a Legionnaire running up at me on a ramp. I ran down towards the ramp and chain pulled him and it launched him off the keep. I thought it was hilarious because I didn't have to deal with the Legionnaire for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, and just to touch on the defense ability, I think it's a great idea to have like the right mouse button be the shield. However, right now, I think it's a little weird in transition. Maybe that just needs some smoothing out, and maybe it has a little bit to do with how the abilities chain together. But the pulling out your shield is useful when you've got a group coming at you, but it's kind of hard right now for the transition of fighting to defense.
Now, let me think. Some of the best abilities I think so far is definitely its C ability. It allows you to pull everyone in an AoE area, and then you come down and you do damage on them. Leading from that, if you can get them all sitting there for just a half a second longer, you can start leading off into your shield slam, and that does some great knockdown in a cone. If you can chain somebody enough, you can keep them CC down, and then your Confessors are really shining because one, they're not getting hit, your Legionnaires aren't getting hit, and they're just raining hell down on top of everybody else. One thing I do have a complaint about is the blocking. Actually, I don't think it's quick enough. I think it's a little too slow with what the latency's going on and the skill callouts. It's a little too slow. Like I think I'm ready to block something, and it's already done the damage before the animation's finished, or the animation starts sometimes too.
I think that's going to be what makes or breaks a good Knight. Part of the skill is knowing when to block and how quick you can get that up in the right direction.
Well, that's the thing. I waited for abilities not doing anything and saw them winding up the ability and threw the block out too late. it was just too slow. I think if it's gonna be a damage mitigation thing, it needs to be a little quicker, in my opinion.
So Shelby, as unnamed had asked, do you know or have you noticed if while blocking does it only mitigate from the front arc and not the back, or has it been too difficult to tell?
From what I've noticed, it's positional.
Yeah, I believe it's the
if you
front.
get me from behind, while I'm blocking, I'm taking the damage.
And now we have an audio snippet.
Ah!
Nice. I believe it's intended to protect the people behind you as well, right? But though I'm not sure just from these tests that you can, just from the latency, I'm not sure you can derive that it's working that way yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it seems like to me that currently, if you have a knight and a legionnaire in your group and you're getting hit by a confessor, just hide behind them because you're not going to get hit.
Well, that's true. The confessor's left click, shooting at the fireball. As soon as they hit something, they do the damage, and they stop traveling.
Yes, including on your group member. So always hide in your group members.
Nice.
Talk about grouping for a minute. We're going to go off track here because something I'm noticing with some of the players during the testing is hiding to win, and I feel that this is a combat test. Everybody should be trying to get in fights, even if you're going to lose. There's no rankings being held here. There's no data being collected on wins or losses. It's a matter of test the combat, you know?
Well, that's not necessarily true. They put out in one of their combat YouTube videos that they're keeping track of who's winning and keeping lists of people that are maintaining high records.
Oh, I didn't know they were doing that.
Yeah, they said that they were going to start implementing, like, towards the end of the alpha and stuff. They'll implement things to give those guys certain little things, trinkets or something. He didn't necessarily say what he was going to give them, but he said he was keeping track of it and that he was going to be looking into that. Though I'm hoping that they're not just looking at the guy that won, and that they're actually looking at the guy while he's playing, and then if he's hiding, that they're not going to actually give him anything for hiding.
Yeah, I'm sure that they are keeping track of the people that are just, like hiding in the corner of the keep or something like that, as opposed to somebody who's actually out there running around doing stuff.
Oh, and if y'all are watching the stream right now, up in the top of the video, I'm chasing down Wargasmo.
Wargasmo.
So, moving on, I guess let's talk about the grayscale environment. How does everybody feel about the way the map's looking? I know we're not working with any textures yet outside of the character textures. I think it looks big. It looks like a spacey environment, and I think that's cool. As opposed to some MMOs where almost every instance feels closed in or like you're just in a large room. This actually feels like an open world environment.
I like the grayscale right now. It's nitty gritty. It's down to the bare bones. What we need. It's a combat test, not a freaking texture test.
Exactly, and I mean it's helpful for actually paying attention to what we're testing as far as combat's concerned, not running around saying, "Ooh, look at those trees! They look awesome."
I think a big thing to recognize is that they're 16, 17 weeks into production, and they already have a product that looks this amazing. Like, I'm not really worried about their textures. I know that they'll be amazing once they get there.
Oh, for sure, man, for sure.
Yeah, and gaming as long as I have, this is the first alpha in years where I felt like, wow, I'm really testing something as opposed to, you just buy to play early and you get a pretty much the polished product, even though, they're calling it alpha. This is a real alpha. We're really testing, and it's really fun to participate in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this, as a pre-alpha, is more polished than some of the crap I bought on Steam for early access.
Well, they're definitely putting their heart, sweat, and tears into this. So I feel that they're going to put out a fantastic product and you can already, like you guys have said, you can already tell just by in an alpha, this looks great, like despite the grayscale and everything. It just, I'm really excited to see what they have in store for, once we get into beta and all that kind of stuff.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I really enjoy how the buildings scale. I mean, even though they're unfinished, they're just kind of a framework for what will be. When you're walking into the keep in the test, I mean, it feels like a massive structure, and you can look around and say this thing is going to be cool when they load it out and put all the gimmicks in that they want to put in.
Destroying walls and all that fun stuff too.
So as I was going to say, we were actually talking about this, James, how Crowfall is putting its big brother to shame, like in the terms of Star Citizen. Crowfall has its path and knows what it wants to do. It's not deviating much off that path at all. Then you got, say, Star Citizen, who's like, that looks nice. I want to add that now. Ooh, what about adding this? What about adding this? Rather than getting a functional product to its backers, they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. They're going to run out of money, even though they have one of the highest crowdsource funded things. It's terrible. It actually makes me sad that I bought in on that. And it also gives me hope with Crowfall because I get to see this.
Absolutely. I mean, Star Citizen is such a big concept, and it sounds amazing, but they keep... First, I think they're burning all their actual developers in the process. That's all rumors and hearsay, but they've planned for such a big game, and they haven't even found a starting point. So how do you make something that big if you've got nothing to jump from?
I haven't really seen anything about Star Citizen. I've seen about the backing and the funding and everything like that, but I haven't actually taken a look at the game, so I can't really say much about it.
So, Shelby, you started testing during the second phase of testing, right? So when was that last week? Friday. What would you say from Friday to yesterday improved as far as gameplay,
It's running smoother. I mean, noticeably different from Friday to last night. Also, even though the latency still says 200 to 300, there's far less spikes up into 1200, 1500 range than there was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and all those days. Overall, it's running a lot better. We're not having different queue sizes. It's been pretty much the same, about 33. I know it usually starts at 24, and they try to bump it up as a max to 33, 36. Haven't noticed any problems really. I've crashed far less than I did Friday, Saturday. Let's see what else. The animations on the skills, they've improved those already. They had that big patch. I can now tell when a confessor actually has its molten armor on. You can tell when you're hitting somebody. You're actually getting feedback on the screen. We have that compass. That compass is great. By the way, that was a godsend. Because now the one person in your group that doesn't want to be part of the group, you can tell where he is and where he's about to die.
They did remove our Lord and Savior beep.
Ah, yes, all hail the beep. Beep.
Gotta wait for 5 seconds.
How does the compass help you find your teammates?
It's up in the upper left-hand corner, and it shows you a little triangle, or not a little triangle, a little diamond, which way they are. Also, Oberon points out that there's no grinding UI sound, which is true.
So there's a diamond for each teammate?
Yes.
Are you able to distinguish between the two diamonds, or are there just 2 diamonds?
Just 2 diamonds currently.
Hey, Prax, set a channel, or set a game for the channel. You didn't set it for Crowfall.
Oh.
And yeah, as Oberon was saying, the no grinding UI sound, which is very, very true. It doesn't sound like a machine gun going off in my ear anymore.
Yeah, that was always fun when you were at the loading screen and all you heard was grrr, grrr.
Well, it wasn't even that. As a knight, there's skills I'm trying to get off. I'm hearing it sound like brr, 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 all the time.
Oh, like a Gatling gun?
Oh, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. which is nice that they even took the time to take care of the little things like that. You know, what was it? Last night we were playing, the server crashed instantly. For the first hour, it was pretty much crashing every time a match started, and got about 2 minutes in. And even during that, instead of canceling testing, they found the server issue and they fixed it, and we were able to try again. You know, it's the little things like that that I'm enjoying about this whole production.
When they ask for feedback, they're not ignoring it. They're actually doing something with it, and quickly.
Yeah, they definitely pay attention to what everybody's saying, take into consideration everybody's opinions and stuff like that, and it's good to see that they are quite quick with that.
Yeah, it's nice to see that you know, Tyrant's taking a lot of participation in the chat. We're talking to devs in the chat on the forums all the time, so it's cool. I mean, they are listening. Whether or not that actually affects the direction of the game, who knows? But for the little things right now, like the awful beep and the atrocious grinding sound, it's gone.
So when I was watching your stream, Shelby, or from the game, what's that jumping, spinning move that you slam on the ground? Because that's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, that's my C ability. That it brings everybody in. That's an AOE, and then slams down for damage. So it's kind of like a way to pull people away from your casters and stuff.
That's pretty cool. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, but that rear kick, that thing is awesome to watch too.
I did have a few good ones of that last night.
Yeah, you landed a few good ones. So, moving on, I guess, what are we hoping comes out of the combat test, guys?
Showing the devs that we actually care as players. I mean, there's 5 to 10 pages sometimes on the feedback. That's proof enough that we're trying to give them stuff. Not necessarily listening to us all the time, because there's a fine line. It's, we may be giving feedback, but don't give us everything that we're asking for, because some of that stuff is insane. That's why they're the devs.
Absolutely, and I don't want them to fall into the habit of maybe listening to people that might take away from the interest of the core group that funded the game. Too often in my gaming career have I seen games go the way of favoring the Care Bear, and this is why I'm here. I like MMOs that are going to have risk versus reward. You know, if you're gonna do things, you better be smart about it, because otherwise you're gonna get killed, and you're probably gonna get your stuff taken. And I think that's awesome.
It's been a very long time since there's been a game like that has any type of risk involved in PvP.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things I'm looking forward to, that being back in one of the big games. James Goblin made a point saying that he expected the centaurs to be overpowered, and I would normally agree with him, but I think a big thing to point out is that, you know, a lot of these guys have played Shadowbane or came from Shadowbane, and you know, they have the experience there to know what they can and can't implement.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, that's
all the bigger names behind this project have a laundry list of their own successes and their own failures, and I think they've proven in communicating with all of us that they're aware of what they failed at.
Trammel.
So, Shelby, Prax, Val, you guys all got a good bit of time testing. How did you feel about the uptime during the testing? Like the damage to health scale, did you feel like it was too long, it was too short, it was right where it needed to be?
I think it's pretty good where it's at. If you mess up, you're dead. It's
Right.
not, oh man, I messed up, I'm going to get away from these 5 guys. It's, oh man, 5 guys found me. I'm dead.
Oh yeah, and I feel even in just group combat, 3 versus 3 currently, the combat is enjoyable enough in the time that it takes to actually take people out, as opposed to being way too drawn out or way too short. Like, even though the Confessor is a more squishier character, as opposed to the other two, I still feel that their survivability and their time in combat is still at an adequate, amount, that you're not like, getting insta-gibbed right off the bat, or, you're just floating around and killing everybody.
Yeah, and if you look at, I mean, that's one thing that's consistent in almost any game. A caster should be treated almost as a glass cannon, so they're gonna either pump out a bunch of damage, or they're gonna get caught in the wrong situation at the wrong time and just get wrecked. That said, I think everybody survives about the same depending on the choices that they make and the turnaround time for getting into another match. Every testing phase I've gotten into, I don't know, 8+ matches, if not more. Total guesstimate, but I play enough, and I'm glad that they have it limited so that we can't hammer into one game mode too much without, adjusting to it. I think that's the worst thing we could do right now, is adjust to whatever they have.
Though I do want to see this mode in the game.
Yes. Isn't this one of the ones that they pretty much talked about initially, right off the bat anyways?
No. This was made for this testing, I believe.
I thought God's Reach was one of the, what do you call it, map campaigns that they talked about.
They definitely specifically called out in a video saying that they didn't necessarily need this specific thing for the finished product, but all the parts of it they needed for the finished product, so it wasn't hard for them to just throw it all together.
Yeah, but I personally, I love this game mode, and as I've been saying, like on the boards and like in game, I would like to see it as the end of a campaign cap. Like, okay, the hunger's won. The world's about to die. Everybody on the server, the hunger's closing in across the whole server. Fight it out. Last man standing gets maybe a bonus or something, or last guild standing.
Yeah, I think that would be a awesome feature. I like the way it is now. I think it would be interesting for people to play test in lieu of having a test server where you just max out a character. Just have a Hunger Dome type situation where people can get on and try a class. Whatever armor you find is viable for that match or anything like that. I could also see it working into a character showcasing type of thing where people have gotten the gear and earned how powerful their character is, and they just want to get on and show it off in a fight like this. I think it would be cool.
Yeah, the only issue with that I see is that they earn that gear and how powerful they are, but this is open loot. So how do you range that in a short-term fight like that?
I think for this instance, you would, in my head, you would still just queue up like normal. You would queue up with whatever character you wanted to play, and then it's a no risk match, maybe a ladder match or something that there's a rankings board, and that's all you really get out of it. You don't earn anything for your character from that.
So you're saying go in with your skills, but start out naked just like it is, and at the end of the match it resets, you move up the ladder or down the ladder as needed.
Yeah, I think so. Especially because the skills are going to be irreversible. Whatever choices you make for your character, they're going to stay there until you either delete it and make a new one, or whatever the case may be. But they've already said that you're not going to be able to roll back on an idea. You have to build your character meticulously. So,
yay! Choices have consequences.
What a shock.
No participation ribbons.
No, those are all really great ideas. I think they have a lot to play with, I think, as far as ideas for making different campaigns and stuff like that. And just, even if this is just a big collage of things that they plan on implementing in other types of campaigns. I mean, overall, it's super fun. I mean, you're just running around, and it's a big deathmatch type deal. But I had a real quick question though, and I just wanted to kind of mention it going off topic just a sec. But one thing, and from watching Shelby stream, that I kind of noticed with the movement. Do you guys notice an issue with, like, if you're trying to turn using the keys, that there's like a delay? And as far as stopping, moving, starting, stuff like that, I feel like it's just a little too behind. It's not as responsive as maybe as it could be.
I think right now most of that, or at least for me, I've been attributing it to the latency. Even with the improvement on latency from our test last night, I think that it was still pretty bad. You look at any game, and nowadays with high-speed internet, 200 to 300 ping is ridiculous, So I'm hoping that it's latency based. Maybe we'll see an improvement as they upgrade their servers, if they upgrade their servers.
So James Goblin, sorry to cut you guys off, actually had a very good point, brought up a good idea, talking about that Hunger Dome inside the real game. He actually said you can project the Hunger Dome around point of interest a couple times a day, or connect them with the everyday world in some way. Say, making the dome appearing with more than 15 to 20 people around the point of interest, impenetrable stuff, and slowly closing, and thus isolating the point of interest in a small battleground. That would be pretty cool.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually.
I actually, while I think all of it's a great idea, I don't want them to lose focus on the actual game, which...
Oh, not at all.
We've seen other developers do. H1Z1, I mean, may as well be Battle Royale now. Look at that game.
Yes, agreed.
I always feel that's one of the reasons why I've never been a big survival game enthusiast, is because I just feel that it ends up turning into, instead of actually playing the game for the way the game's intended, it's just a run around and kill other people type deal.
Yeah, and that's a actual game mode in H1Z1 now, and it's fun. Don't get me wrong, but nobody's on the actual servers building bases or doing anything. They're just queuing up for Battle Royale. That's where almost all the player base is. But not what we're talking about tonight. So.
Oh, okay. Oberon said that Blair was talking about that with the movement, it has something to do with the physics, and they were talking about changing it. So obviously they are aware of it, and it's good to know that it's acknowledged and being looked into.
So if we want to move on to another subject, this one is one I detest, and it is something looks like Bramble's put on there. Pros, cons of damage info meters. I despise those things. I feel like they are a crutch. Sure, people like the theory craft, and they like to say, oh, look how much DPS I'm doing. I don't care. If the group survives and the group completes the object, good job. You worked as a group. Everybody did their part. Sure, you can argue the point that people can slack off, and you can see who's slacking off with a damage meter. Yeah, you'll be able to tell that without it anyways.
Well, see, I don't use the damage meters for other people necessarily. I mostly use it for myself, crafting, or theory crafting, right? So I can sit there, I can do a rotation for 5 minutes and say, all right, I did this, and then do a different rotation for 5 minutes. All right, I did this. I can swap out gear and be like, all right, this is optimal. This is what I should be doing if I can do it that way.
Hi, I'm here. So from my standpoint, we used to do the raid thing back in the days of WoW during Lich King, and we used a damage meter as a raid leader specifically to find people who were doing something maybe wrong with their character, or they didn't have the rotation down, something like that. So we did use it to kind of weed the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, but we didn't beat the crap out of people to, basically say, hey, you suck, get out. That wasn't how we played, but we're different than most of the other guilds that are out there. So it's never really been how we operate.
Welcome.
Hey, Boros.
Yeah, I mean, I can take it or leave it. I would love to see certain mods enter the game because obviously I think if any damage meters come into play, it's probably going to be player made. But at the same time, you run into a situation with like World of Warcraft. There are too many mods, and some of them are useful, some of them are not. You obviously can pick and choose at your own leisure what you want to use, but you just get too much garbage with that sometimes. Um, and what we have here is if the UI stays consistent, which from the UI demos they've showed us, this kind of looks like what the UI is going to be. It's really lightweight, and I kind of appreciate that. It gives you more to enjoy out of the game instead of watching every part of your screen that isn't the game. You know.
Yeah, I agree. And it was something that I actually talked with somebody about last night about. I'm not sure how their UI interface is going to implement for skills and stuff like that. If what we currently have, as far as one bar, if that's going to be it. But one thing that I always, and WoW is a huge impact on that, is that I really have begun to despise games that you have to have 13 skill bars to be able to be effective in playing, as opposed to something small, core abilities that you're going to use and choose to use to make yourself, effective in combat. And I'm hoping that that's the direction that they're going to take with this, as far as kind of keeping it more, combat fluid, and not so much depending on, hey, I need to use these 50 abilities to be able to do anything.
So you're saying it's really hard to hit Control Shift 9 whenever you want to take a potion.
Oh, I hate doing
that. So
yeah,
they specifically.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No, they specifically said that they were using Terra as an example of combat, and I think to Val's point, the Terra system of combat is it's different, it's nice, it's active. There's a lot of AoEs because you can't necessarily aim as well as you would want to for like an FPS game because you're over shoulder in a lot of cases, but you have to look at the fact that most people had gone from using clicking, right? I mean, that's the classic. We always make fun of clickers, but there's a lot of people who play MMOs and they still click icons, and that's fine. However they want to do it, that's cool. If they're not key binding, it is what it is. But realistically, most people have their key binding set to maybe 1 through 12, and then your movement keys and a couple of shift or control click abilities. Terra, you really had to, if you were going to be successful in PvP, you really had to have like a Razor Naga or something equivalent. You had a key bound to every single button, plus all the keyboard keybind buttons, plus all the shift alt buttons. There's just the biggest problem I had with Terra was the amount of tools at your disposal that all sort of did the same thing.
And that's a very good point. I mean, that's what was trying to get at, as far as like all of those abilities that you need to use in WoW and stuff like that, perhaps had all of their specific uses, but it always makes me mad. And even coming from formally clicking, I mean, way back in the day, that's what you did, you clicked. So before game MMOs started picking up and stuff like that, that's the way people played. And
Shadowbane was click to move.
Right, exactly. And that was a nice change, playing other games. Like I played Dark Age of Camelot for a very long time, and even though there were numbers coming from like EverQuest and things like that, I always just was clicking when I first always started playing. So it was hard transitioning into actually just using numbers and stuff like that. But even now, it's like I don't want to have to hit 3 keys to be able to access one ability.
I agree.
And look at what's changed since then too, though. I mean, even the peripherals, the keyboards, the Nagas, everything has gone so much further in that you don't really need that many settings anymore. It could all be handled in hardware now. So.
You gotta learn the piano, then you go to Terra. Nice. So, any of the people here really got anything to add? Like, viewers, you got anything to add to this?
Yeah, we're gonna try and pull 10 more minutes out of this, so shoot the shit.
Actually, we still got one more thing. Archetypes that we want to see in like upcoming tests. I personally want a stealther and a range, like a bow user. Preferably a stealth bow user.
I feel like it needs to be a character that has the ability to run down someone. But before they start putting more ranged in, I feel having well, I don't know. I take that back. I guess the Legionnaire can technically run down someone.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can to a point. Still, a gap closer would be nice, but I don't know. I would be down for really any range class or a stealth class. I kind of am interested to see what their take is going to be on classes like that.
Yeah, an assassin wouldn't be terrible.
No, not at all. I wouldn't mind like a glass cannon melee class. That would be fun and interesting to play.
Yes, I agree.
Oberon, you have a good point with that on the Legionnaire, that their snare is charged over time. I have that problem with the shield bash after I get somebody knocked down with the charge, trying to keep them stunned. By the time I can get it off and get the second ability off on the shield slam or the shield stun, they're long gone, especially if they're a confessor.
Yeah, I really feel that, even in the combat test, that, mobility is key. Like, you got to keep moving, you can't stand still. And abilities that are going to kind of hinder you from being able to do anything because you're stuck in charging something or anything like that, you're going to lose out big time.
Do you guys feel that the C ability for Legionnaire actually charges you enough to be productive, or get most of your charge from fighting and what is it, rage?
Yeah, it's rage. I don't know, the few times that I used it, it seemed to be adequate enough. Like, if I needed to throw a heal or something like that and I used it, it gave me enough to be able to do that. So I didn't really pay attention to the specific amount, or, if it fills up your bar. Maybe Oberon can shed some light on that since he's played it quite a bit.
I really want to see crafting.
Well, there'll probably be a crafting test for that, but I hope that's well down the line and not anytime
that was sarcasm?
soon. No, I know you're a Care Bear.
You are like the professional crafter. Sometimes.
Oh, dang. Andy even called you out.
That's Martin.
Wasn't it you, Josh, that got crazy over the way we laid trade packs down in Arcade?
I think I was one of the people that got OCD with trade packs, but I know there was other people that would go around and rearrange trade packs.
Y'all smell those brakes? Y'all smell those brakes lighting up from the backpedaling?
Oh no, I agreed. Canesaw is one of them as well. Yeah, so me and Canesaw, I think, spent a good half hour rearranging trade packs so it was more efficient on someone's plot.
Yeah. So, let's hope that this game is everything that Arcade failed to be.
You're here to that.
Not here to bash another game, but so much potential completely ruined by mismanagement.
So before Andy has a conniption fit, we are doing Extra Life as Ghost of War Gaming. So we do have our group page up on Extra Life. Y'all are more than welcome to check it out. I know some of our streams have the Extra Life button where you can go take a look and donate to the individual members to contribute to the group as a whole. And if Andy would like to take over and do something real quick about that, I need to go tend to some kids that are acting like fools. Be right back.
So, long story short, GOW has been around for 12, going on 13 years very soon. The Guild has lasted as long as it has because of how we operate. We've done guild cruises, guild wine tours, guild camping trips. We do mini meets if we're in a particular area. I think we've had 3 different weddings where people have flown to various places to attend. We had one in Hawaii, a destination wedding where some of the team went out to, another one in upstate New York, another one down in Texas. And then, if there's a bunch of us that live in a local area, for example, Pittsburgh, I travel there for work from upstate New York, so we'll go out drinking and just hanging out and having a good time as normal people. But we've lasted as long as we have because of our personal relationships outside of game and off of things like the GoWCast and streaming and raiding and PvP and all the other stuff that goes with it. The reason we want to do Extra Life is mostly that we've done all this stuff. We've been pretty fortunate in our own personal lives, and we just feel like we need to do something to give back to the community. And there's nothing better than sick kids to take care of. Let's face it, the PvP world especially, we can get pretty toxic. We get into each other's faces, we call each other names, we have grudges with guilds that go back 10 years, and we like each other. We get along well, but when the rubber meets the road, we're out to win for Ghosts of War. We're not out to win for Guild X, Y, or Z, and we're going to put the screws to them even if we get along with them. And generally speaking, it breeds that somewhat toxic environment, and it's just not how we operate internally, and it's just a way for us to kind of even the playing field for, not that the competitiveness is a negative thing, but it gets pretty hot and heavy, and I think people lose sight of that. The more they play and the more insulated and anonymous they are from the real world through their avatar, the less they do for the world in general. And it's just a way for us to do something nice as gamers. It's something we enjoy without having to put politics in it. We don't have to put personal grudges in it. We're just doing the right thing.
Basically what he's saying is, why do you hate kids?
Don't hate the kids.
Give us your monies. Don't hate kids.
All right, I'm
Yeah,
back.
give us your money. Don't hate kids.
What did I miss?
Why do you hate kids so much?
Don't give us your money. Give Extra Life your money in our name.
Yes.
Back?
What did I miss?
Oh, Boros pretty much said that he's light the world on fire.
If you don't donate to the kids.
Right. Why do you hate the kids?
I don't hate kids.
I know.
Well, the viewers think we hate kids because of you, Andy.
Yeah, what have you done?
Nuke you apparently loves kids almost as much as Jared.
Oh my.
Nice, guys.
That's a little too much love for the children.
Yes.
Honestly, I think, to add to why the guild has been around so long and why you retain members is a lot of us, we don't even play every game together. We just sit around and shoot the shit in comms all day. I mean, most of us hear from each other every day. It's pretty cool. Oh, Nuke.
Oh boy. Also, just to say, it's also good to know that, despite not being on because of whatever reasons, you can always come back and still be able to pick up and talk to everybody and have a good time and stuff. So that's always a great thing.
Oh, but always somebody to game. Awesome. So, now that the NSA is looking into you, I think that's a excellent segue to closing the GoWCast, the inaugural episode.
Yeah. Also, the next beta test or alpha test is at 9:00 Eastern. 30 minutes. So hopefully everybody's going to be that's in the alpha test that was here is going to be on.
I know I'll be streaming tonight, and I think Prax is going to be streaming. Val, are you going to be streaming?
I'll be streaming.
Yeah. So for those of you that showed up to watch this clusterfuck of a podcast, thank you very much. Enjoyed it. We do more, so
Thanks, guys, for coming and watching.
Yep, y'all have
And
fun,
listening.
and we'll see you in game if you're playing.
Indeed. Goodbye, Rage Quit, guys. It was nice having you watching.
Bye, guys. Everybody remember, Andy loves kids.
Andy
Loves
hates
the
kids.
kids.